As you can tell a lot about how I kind of feel about a game if by the kind of video presentation I give. This one, I'm not able to really give this great story of what the forces, how they're moving. And of course, I prefer story to gameplay. This is a game about gameplay, so I focus on the gameplay of it. I think that shows you the most about it and is most useful to people. And I might enjoy playing something like this more opposed than I do solo. And certainly I think it's more tailored towards that competitive opposed player. Anyway, that said. And honestly, same feel for Cruel Necessity, by the way. It's more that competitive player because it's about the gameplay rather than the story the game is telling. We're on the Germans. They do not want to R&R. I have the von Molt card to give me that powerful redraw. So I'm just going to take a card. I may take more. It's an event. Steinmetz's Insubordination. That doesn't sound good for me. Immediately, I get myself a problem and a morale hit. Also, during movement in combat and the next French movement in combat, the German 1st, 2nd, and Meuse armies each have -1 movement point and -1 strength point as shown. Afterwards, this gets removed from play. Let's read about this. I'm not really very familiar with the Franco Prussian War. A 74-year-old General von Steinmetz, commander of the First Army, had exuded personal stubbornness and energy in the victory at Sadau over Austria in 1866, but by the Franco-Prussian War he was very hard to control. He was picked to lead in a critical situation and it wrecked Moltke's plans. Okay, not a lot of information about it there. So here's the problem. Those armies are hard for me to determine where they are because all the counters are upside down. But do I need another card? Well, this is an event. It blew my pieces out of the play. You know what? If I take another card draw now, I get it for free at this point. And then in the admin phase, that's in lieu of passing, so that I wouldn't be able to get rid of my pieces. I'll live with what I've got here. Now I can mobilize. I got nothing to mobilize. So now I get to move, and the hard part here, of course, is I have to find these armies. 1st, 2nd, and Meuse armies. Those, I think, are my big guys. So this may not be a great turn to attack a lot of things, but I can extend and grab these supply sources, which will start costing the French morale. Turns out the indicated units were the 3 facing closest to Paris. I've spread them out, grabbed Dieppe, but I didn't have enough movement points to run up and take Le Havre. I am launching an attack here, and now the French have, hey, some cards, and they can force more painful attacks by the Germans simply by sliding into locations next to this army. Alternatively, I could try to force an attack here as well across this river. So I may spend a lot of cards on reaction to force the Germans to make those bad attacks that are precisely why the French keep getting pushed back. I'm going to take some time and figure out which ones I want to move into place and play, but I do want to modify the odds as much as possible. This thing, well, maybe I'll just let that die and focus here. I could also focus on this guy having to attack across the river and cause some real problems for the Germans. 3 of the 4 French cards. I'm leaving this attack in place. Position some units up there to launch attacks. And now the Germans are going to have to launch attacks here, here, and here. The French reveal this, and that prevents a battle from happening. seem to be outrunning my supply lines. That's not terribly bad in this game. However, if I lose a unit, it'll be lost forever. Well, let's do this attack. That's one of the affected units, of course. So we've got 7 French, 8 French to only 5 Germans. So we're at the -3 table. And what can I do here? Not a lot. I have no cards that are going to help me. The only thing this helps with is it can screw with the friction die roll and actually cause friction points to be transferred to the opponent. Okay. So, what are we at? -3, I say. Yeah, that's not a good table. Not much I can do about it. I roll a 6, which is a pretty good roll. That's just going to be a withdrawal. The French do not want that result, so they're going to spend a friction point to force the Germans to re-roll. Now, let's see if we get a friction effect here. 1, it applies. The friction point was not spent. It remains on the German player. So now he's got to re-roll. And he gets a 3. That's going to kill his unit. He's got a chance of surviving this. So he'll spend I got losses all over the place, but he'll spend a French friction point. And the French are going to use their system D to add 1 to the die roll. It ends up a 3. It applies the friction point spent. So now the Germans get a re-roll. A 4. That's going to be a rout. I'll let them take it. So they're going to retreat 2 movement points. Their movement points are 2, so that's not greater than their allowance currently. Yeah, I know it says 3, but remember, we got this card in play. So I'll fall back to here. And the Germans actually pick up a friction point from the rout as well. I could advance with my French units. No reason to. This is the reaction phase. Now another battle here. And the Germans are only at -1 on this battle, which isn't as bad a table. They get a 4, which is simply a withdrawal. The French could force a roll on that to push things back, try to get a worse result. Because the problem is, the Germans have cards, so if I can't kind of knock some holes in their line, I'm going to be facing their reaction moves on their next card. Alright, we'll see if we get a better result. The friction table is no effect, but the friction point was spent. Table has got scattered values throughout it, which make that +1 not necessarily that potent. But okay. I'll leave it as is, and we had a result of a German withdrawal, I believe, which will simply force him back a hex. Soissons is still German. The French don't want to expend too much of their power on this. And now, after combat, we go to the administrative phase. Well, we have our special card here, which we're going to play to discard any cards we desire and withdraw hand to full capacity. So, I'm going to get 3 new cards. You may remove this card from play so that you can trace the initial point of up to 4 hexes to a railroad instead of 3 for the rest of the game. Place this somewhere to remind you. A truce. If I have significantly higher, I can get a truce where both sides get cards and values of support, but that's going to waste time for me. And then a Manteuffel card, which we've seen before. All right. Where are we? We're at the end of the German admin, where we're occupying 1 depot. Again, I didn't launch an attack here. That's a siege situation. I don't have to, and would face... Oh, I've got other things I gotta do. Yeah. So I gain a point of morale for that. And then I'm able to hide my units. And I'm out of dummies. So I'm not going to be able to do anything exciting with that. Now we go over to the French side. Excuse me. And the French are out of cards again. And I believe, since the Germans have piles of cards, I don't want to launch an attack. So I'm going to do another rest and rearg. In which case I get a full new hand. I haven't played this, I hope. Oh, geez, I don't see that unit in there. I think this card, I don't know where they are. Oh, geez. I think this card is accidentally, didn't get discarded. But maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, here they are. I brought them in, God knows why. I don't think legitimately. I'm gonna throw this card out because I don't know how that ended up where it did. You know what? I think that unit shouldn't exist. I think I accidentally put it on the track. I don't seem to have... I think I put it in as one of the 3rd Republic cards. A Militaris. Sorry, Mitrailleuse. Not terribly exciting. You want to destroy France. It gives me a lot of replacement points. Or I can mobilize to gain some morale. First meeting with Bismarck. Favre's first meeting convinced him that the Germans' terms for armistice would be anything but lenient. He published the terms, and it renewed the French government's will to fight. The naval operations. I can throw a card from the enemy. It doesn't sound terribly valuable for a friction point, right? Okay, so I've drawn my cards. I get a morale point back. Yeah. Those don't seem to go down, do they? And I lose half my friction points. Well, I don't have any. Now, not step 2. Step 2 is mobilization. And I may want to mobilize more units here, especially since I lost that. I've got one that I could throw here. Yeah, but that's going to cost me. This will get me 3 for one of these. And 3 is all I need. I am going to forces there. And now what else? Now I head to the movement phase, and I have to worry about avoiding German reaction movement. Well, I believe the Germans have an easy way to take this city, since there's no fortress here, which is to throw a card away and push forward. Elsewhere, though, reactions may be less interesting. So, for example, pushing aside, and that would actually perhaps open up my rail line, pushing aside this unit doesn't really gain me a whole hell of a lot. I'm looking at maybe surrounding, trying to cut around and get Paris from that side. Pushing this guy out of the way might do me some good. The danger is the French are going to have cards in their hand to be able to react to whatever I do. As you can see, those cards can really foil an attack pretty easily. Ooh. The Germans are moving here. My first, through the Trousseau way to do that. My first thought had, oh yeah, no, you can only advance one hex using reaction movement. So now the French have to pull out of here, and we'll fall back. We're having a hard time finding our way out. I can't advance. I didn't want to launch anything in there. Now we go, as we compare, make sure there's nothing in the rest and reorg that affects the admin phase. I get a card or half my things. I'm going to take a card. Yeah, it's an event. Palikao intervenes. The French is the Second Empire. It's not. Otherwise, I get 2. Oh, this is a bad event. Anxiety over political situations in the capital blinded Count Palikao to military realities after Grève-Saint-Pivon. His disastrous command ordering MacMahon to march to Bazaine's aid at Metz helped seal the Second Empire's fate at Sedan. Yeah, this... And I lose a morale. And this does not remove the card from play if it's Third Republic. Second Empire, getting this effect there gets this bad card out of your deck. But if you don't get it out of your deck, I guess you got to keep bad generals in place in the Third Republic. That's not good. Okay, and now finally we go to check. That was my draw. I didn't get a card essentially out of it. I just got a bum event. Now we go here, and the Germans occupy one or more French depots. That's true. There goes the French morale. And however, I occupy Paris, and there's no commune. So it goes back up. It's hard to take France down at this point. Might be a strategy to try to run your own morale down along with the French morale so that you don't cause the Republic, and instead you can actually bring them down to 0. That may be a risky move though, where you're going down to 0 as well. And now I get to flip my French units over and get a dummy counter somewhere. I don't know where to put the dummy. He's going to get attacked probably wherever he goes. All right. And that pushes us another turn forward. Okay, so the Germans opened up their set of the turn, pulling a card. Kriegspiel. Yay, to do some wargaming. They have nothing to mobilize. So now it's a decision of where to move. The French have cards, so it's dangerous. I'm not sure what to focus on. I really want to get Paris. I'd like to get into here, but here's the problem. The French are here, so it's going to be tough to capture that hex I pushed them out. I used a card for that. I may actually go for a surround and destroy permanently on this unit. Simply because I need to try to reduce France's military capability as a whole so that I can start focusing my own more solidly on Paris without any risks elsewhere. After the German movement, pushing some units forward here so that this is no longer an effective place to put a single French unit to kind of try to damage the Germans. The only real risk that the Germans have here is up at Dieppe. I left a unit there to maintain control because that is the one thing I've got that's eating up points. But I am planning, well, I just picked up another one, and I am planning on sieging this one. So I'm having trouble finding a good place to put French units. You know, if I put them here, they'll probably get defeated because it's 3-1 in units there. Now, I don't know what. Some of them may be dummies. 2 of them may be dummies for all I know. However, it's hard to track that. And here, I can't really get anywhere. I could push units here. You know, if I'm willing to play a lot of cards, I could launch what's really a nasty counterattack across here. Is that worth doing? Maybe. Nah. So I'm going to sit where I am. This unit can't get out. And we're going to open up with an attack up here. I'm not going to commit these guys because you know what they are. So this is not a great attack. It's only a 1-to-1, but I've got a siege table roll coming. And I can reduce the attacker's total at this point, but I still have to face the damn siege table. I don't have any cards that'll help me in siege as the defender. For what it's worth, neither does the attacker. In and of itself, I kind of don't want to throw away a friction point from the Germans just to reduce their strength for this. So I'll let them get their siege roll. And they get a big 6, which is honors of war, which means the fortress is gone. We've won. The French, though, are placed in the nearest friendly city hex, not in an enemy zone of control, at the end of the battle, which is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll send them to Le Havre. I don't have any right to advance on this. So that's all that happens there. So this is going to fall, though, unless reinforcements show up there. And, well, I actually have an opportunity to throw some there. It's in supply, it'll slow things down. Now we come down to this attack. And this one's a lot bigger. 9-2. That doesn't sound like something I can do much about. The attacker. I've got a nice card I could use for battle, but I don't feel like I want to take friction for this. And you can't use friction points to affect the siege table. There are apparently cards that'll affect it because you have the right to play cards, but I haven't seen any that I remember, at least. So I think the French will not be playing cards either. The Germans certainly aren't. We're looking at 7, 8, 9 to 2. We're on the 7 table. And this is pretty bad no matter what. Here we're going to get a withdrawal, but we have no right to withdraw because we're surrounded by zones of control. I think this unit's permanently destroyed. That's the first thing. But I think this sucker, the dummy, does go back here. It's probably not too big a deal, but I'm not looking it up at this point. Now I would have the opportunity to advance if I wanted. I don't want. Those are the only two battles I had. So now I go to admin. I have a full hand of cards. I could draw another one, but I think it's more worthwhile for me to lose one of my friction points. Now we look at the points. We gain points for our holdings, but we're at the top of the chart still. And now we get to hide our units again. And then we go to the French. And for the French, I want to think real hard if there's something I can do. I think I might be able to launch a successful attack here at Dieppe. I don't know what that is. The French played the card that gave them the Garde Immobile and kept mostly this position around Paris. Unfortunately, this space, the Germans could play a card to move here. That could be a very dangerous space. There's a lot of strength here. More than is allowed. It was probably overstacked for a while, but I don't want to take the elimination just because of my stupidity. However, this space could be of some value. Unfortunately, this one's more tasty. I could move a couple of units with a couple cards there. Let me look for a couple of cards that I don't mind expending to force the French to make this attack. And sometimes the cost in discards, this seems worthwhile, but the cost in discards is high. I put a couple of cards. The however you pronounce that. Well, that's greater supply lines. It's kind of neat, but I just don't want to play for that. But the Pantoufle, I like this card. Allowing you to move a stack, or to give a stack more movement points. This is reaction movement. But overall, I think I like the other cards better. So, that's where we're going to be. Can't do anything about this, so let's do the fight. And what do the French have here? Well, not all that much. 6-5. It's only a +1 attack. Ooh. That's not a good result for the French at all. They're going to blow their point in an attempt at a reroll. I get a 4. No effect. The FP is spent. So the French are going to be taking a minor defeat. They lose a unit. I believe this has to be the strongest mobile unit in the battle, which is this one. That's going to be more expensive to take back. And they lose a morale for that little fight. And now we're also forced to make this kind of probably ugly attack. Jeez, I didn't play any cards here. I should have. It's so hard for me to remember, you know, hey, you always have this card play thing when the rest of the system seems fairly like a simple system. So here I'm at -1. Well, I want to make a card effect here. I only had one combat card available, so I'm going to cancel that -1 out with this. However, well, before that card, I can actually make that a -2 by spending one of these, if that's successful. I was getting close to the total, so let's do that first. -2, a 4, no effect. Okay, so it's only -1. So now, I don't know if I can keep throwing points. I think so. This could be a valuable action. Let's spend another point. Oh, 1. We didn't spend the point. and it's successful, and now it's at -2. We'll let that sit. That gives us a nice handful of cards. We can only affect the attacker. He's going to play a combat card, bringing it, giving me another one of these, bringing it up to only -1. But the Germans will also spend, and they'll bring it to -3. And this is going to be an ugly fight. A 5 is just a rout. The Germans do not like that. They're going to try another card. They roll a 5, so they get a reroll. Let me force the French to roll again. Now the French are destroyed. The French don't want that result. So they too spend, and they have no effect, and actually eat an FP for that. Now they're out of options, and the die roll was as bad as it gets, which means they lose this unit. They lose another point of morale. The Germans have the opportunity to advance, but of course they're not going to take it. And now we go, and now we see why I've been R&Ring all the time, because attacking is just so ugly. Now we hit the administrative phase, and he gets a card or half his FPs. He's going to eat 2 of his friction points instead. Now we check for changes. Well, here in the French administrative, the Germans occupy a depot, but the French occupy Paris, so we stay the same. 1 depot is all you need, and we have more than 1. And that's going to mean I get to flip my units over, pull myself one of these, which I'll put over here for now. And it's obvious where it is, right? And that is the end of the French turn. It's looking kind of ugly, but Paris is still French, right? Made a little bit of an error on the French turn and flipped these guys over. They should be staying face up. They're still in an enemy zone of control. I'm looking at the German turn, and I'm a little worried here because, well, I'm on the rest and relaxation or not option. And yeah, I know I'm probably driving someone crazy by calling it that. If I try to launch some sort of attack here, it has to be fairly powerful, or else units are going to step in and screw with it. Now, as things stand right now, I have a +1 attack coming through, and I could conceivably move another unit here, but that unit would then perhaps be attacking other things. I've got these, but they're dummies here. Oh, I also had a dummy here, which I moved here. I think I placed it at the end of the turn. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, I think I definitely want to swing forward here. I'm not going to take the R&R, which means I only get 1 thing, which looks like I get 1 card for free. Landwehr. Interesting. I can get some extra replacements that I don't need. I'm going to take a friction point to draw another card because my hand's too weak. And I get von Breida's Death Ride again. Ah yes, it gets removed from play if it's used for combat effect. Alright, well, I don't want to take morale losses, I don't think. I actually could afford to. What the hell? I'm going to plunk, because I've got morale coming to me here, I'm going to take a morale loss and draw a 4th card. Luxembourg. If I'm at least 3 higher in morale, and I am, I may remove this card for play. I get an extra morale back, and I have Luxembourg join the war. I don't see any real harm to doing that. Treaty of London resolved crisis between France and Prussia over the status of Luxembourg. Although the treaty avoided war and Luxembourg was demilitarized, it was allowed to join the German customs union. It remained a point of contention. Okay, well, I can play that during operations. That's right now. I'm going to do that. I think that sounds like a good idea. And now Luxembourg is part of my country. It doesn't do me any real harm, but it got me a morale. Was the card more valuable than the morale? Well, I just spent a morale to get that card, but now I can spend that same morale to get another card. A flank march. This allows me to move a single unit directly from one hex in an enemy zone of control to another. This has to be its entire move. It doesn't have to end in supply. Okay. So now I'm going to try to figure out where to launch my attacks, and I'm not going to do that on camera because, well, it eats up a lot of time for me to debate that. It's hard enough off camera. This is the position I've faced the French with. I've stretched my line out to Orléans, and I'm set up to make attacks here and up here. The French only have 2 cards. There's a limited amount they can do to defend themselves here. If I come out of the fort, well, that'll open up this unit to attack, but it might strip this unit away from the attack. Over here, I got a powerful unit I can move into place there. I think that's worth doing. I'm going to throw my naval operations to slide this unit up into play up there. How about down here? What's my situation? It doesn't look good. Now, I know, as the German player, that these are dummies. The question is, how much does the French player guess that? I'm going to use a die roll. He's going to go for that as well. He's going to push across here. That's a pretty questionable move looking at the pieces, but he's guessing the Germans have pushed their real pieces forward. Now that puts us in a position where we have to launch attacks, and unfortunately the Germans have all the advantages. Piles and piles of cards, a slight edge in friction points, la la la. So I have to declare my attacks. This is going to attack these two, this is going to attack this. Over here, well, I'm allowed. See, no, this doesn't matter whether those are dummies or not. Give me that card back. I got nowhere I can move him to that does me any good, because I can declare an attack with these dummies. So they screen me anyway. Yeah, and then we have an attack here, and the Germans are going to use this dummy to screen this unit. Alright, so let's open things up with, I don't want to lose this hex because then I'll be cut off. Right now I can trace supply out this way. So I guess we'll open up here before we go there. And the attacker has, well, the first option is the French can spend a point for this, but it's better, I think, to save that for possible die roll modifiers. The Germans have a combat card that doesn't apply. They don't really have any combat cards. The French have a combat card here, which also will not apply. So we're at a simple +1 on the table. This is one of my worst attacks, I'm assuming. But I get a nice big roll that's going to be a rout for the French. I could try to to reverse that, but that's not the worst possible result I can get. I'm going to take the route. So I roll a die for each of the units. The top unit has 5. Both units are going to retreat 5. And that's going to actually cost me 2 morale. Yeah, let me make sure. For each friendly unit routing more hexes. There's no bonus for the Germans for getting that route. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The Germans do not wish to advance there. Well, if I advance here, that doesn't really do me any good. So now we'll go to the second attack. And again, I've got a +1. Nobody's got cards that can play for this. I get a roll of 3, which is simply a withdrawal. I think both sides are happy enough with that. Okay. I don't have to attack Paris, obviously. I don't want to make this attack quite yet. I want this one first, because I can't win this attack. So we flip our pieces over. You can see those dummies aren't quite dummies the way they are in some games. Alright, well this actually disappeared before the regular units were revealed. Here I've got the particular card Le Brave Gens works with. I could double the unit, and it removes this card from play. But that's not going to help me. They're still going to be at above +6. So we're looking at a max chart roll here. And we get a 1. The Germans say that's no good. Let's see if we can spend a friction point to get a reroll. 4, no effect, friction point spent. We'll do it again. 6, no effect, friction point transferred. Well, that wasn't a good result, and all we're getting is a withdrawal for the French. I can't pull towards this, but I can pull towards that one, which will allow me to go here. And the Germans could advance here. Do they want to? Means another friction point. I'm able to eat up half my friction points though, so that may not mean anything. So I'm going to advance. And now we go to this poor unit. The Germans did not actually attack it. Alright. Now we go to admin. I'm going to recover half my friction points. And we check for status changes. This is in the German phase. We occupy a depot and we're adjacent to Paris. So we actually get 2 morale points for that. Not that we can hold 2. That way we don't end up with an extra card. And now, maybe we're here. We're at least 4 higher. We have a supplied German unit adjacent to Paris. So we got a supply line running down that way. And supplied German units occupy at least 2 French depots other than Paris. We are now the German Empire. We gain 3 morale, which doesn't help. We're going to reshuffle the cards and we get another card immediately. And our maximum hand size is 1 higher. I'll take care of that in a moment. But before that happens, and this happens during the administrative phase if I'm correct in my memory anyhow. I get to not flip these units because they are in a zone. I get to flip these units. And I get to spawn one of these, which I will put over here. I think I'll have more help coming from that side. This guy's not in his zone. All right, so now I get a reshuffle and an extra draw card. Ugh. South German states grumble is my bonus card. If the German government is empire, then you must either get 3 friction points or -1 morale. I'll take the -1 morale. Friction points are more damaging to me at this point. I know morale losses seem worse, but not when you're way ahead in morale. Afterwards, remove the card from play, so it goes over in the pile. And that'll put us to the French, who get an excess unit here, and have a tricky situation, because Paris is under siege if the Germans aren't knocked away from there, and I see almost no chance of knocking them away. They hold a whole handful of cards versus 1 for the French. It's going to be rough. All right, so again, here with the French, I just can't justify taking a normal turn. Yes, I need to drive the Germans away from Paris, but I can't. I cannot see how to do it. And attacks, if I leave units on the board, they will have to attack if I don't take the reorganization phase. So we'll do it. I'm allowed to discard my cards. I'll throw this. I'm not sure if this should have been shuffled in. Maybe I should. Let's see where are the cards here. This is always a question in games. Operation cards is 7. I can't trust that. There we go. Reshuffling. When your draw pile is empty and you must draw a card. Okay. I don't have to draw a card until I discard this, so I'm going to have to shuffle. Alright, so the French pushed forward up here, able to move towards this, falling back towards that. Move this into place there. I bought some reinforcements with a couple of my cards. I had some replacements. I had a reinforcement coming. These guys are stuck in combat now. The question is, well, in not combat. The question is, do the Germans want to push the French out of someplace, like either out of this bump in the river line or out of Le Havre? Well, what does it do me to do so? I mean, I have to spend a card to do it. That's the problem. And I've got a nice hand for my turn. I don't think I have any particular advantage to doing it, which means we then go to the combat phase and the French have to withdraw. We'll pull up. After that, we go to administrative, where the French can get rid of, they picked up some friction from their recoveries, but I'm willing to hold on to that to get a new card. And then, unfortunately, the cards I have here, they screw with the German friction table, but they don't have a lot of advantages other than that in the German turn. So now I look at what I have here, and I think this breaks even still. There's depots, but Paris is still French and the Commune hasn't appeared yet. So I get to flip things. And I get to put my mystery piece somewhere. No big mystery where, you know, I mean, wherever it is no big surprise. And that is it for this turn. We're going to see the German siege starting. I'm going to close this video out, and probably that's it for the wee hours of this morning.